family betrayal cuts deeper than any knife. When my own son and his wife invaded my home, I never imagined the battle I'd need to fight to save what was rightfully mine. The sound of tires crunching on my gravel driveway that Wednesday afternoon seemed ordinary enough. I was in my kitchen, the afternoon light streaming through lace curtains, my hands busy shelling fresh peas into a blue ceramic bowl. The same bowl Samuel and I had bought at the farmer's market 20 years ago. That's when I saw them through the window, my son Andre's black SUV loaded with suitcases. My heart lifted. A surprise visit from my boy? But then I saw her step out first, Tasha, with those oversized designer sunglasses hiding half her face, dragging two massive suitcases behind her. The wheels left ugly tracks across my freshly swept walkway. Andre followed, shoulders slumped, eyes downcast. Something wasn't right. Before I could wipe my hands on my apron, she was already pounding on my front door. When I opened it, she didn't hug me, didn't even smile, just pushed past me, those stiletto heels clicking against my hardwood floors. "This is our new home now," she announced, dropping her bags in my living room. Not a question, a declaration. I blinked, my mouth suddenly dry. "Excuse me?" "It's too hot to stand out there explaining," Tasha said, pulling off her sunglasses and tossing them onto my coffee table. "Andre, bring in the rest of the bags." My son wouldn't meet my eyes as he hauled in more luggage. I stood frozen, watching strangers claim my space. The home Samuel built with his own two hands, the home where I'd lived alone, peacefully, since he passed. "Andre," I said quietly, "what's happening?" He mumbled something about temporary arrangements and just until things get sorted out, but it was Tasha who answered for him. "The bank happened," she said with a dismissive wave. "Some mix-up with mortgage payments, no big deal. We'll get it straightened out. But meanwhile, this place has more than enough room." My heart thundered against my ribs. No phone call, no request, not even a warning, just an invasion. "This is my home," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "You should have called first." Tasha's laugh was sharp. "We didn't have time for a family consultation, Loretta. When life happens, you adjust." The way she said my name, cold, like addressing a stranger, made something harden inside me. In my 69 years, I'd weathered many storms. Lost my husband, raised two children alone, fought arthritis and loneliness and grief, but I'd never felt so instantly violated. If you've ever had someone walk into your sanctuary and claim it as their own, you know that sick feeling washing through your stomach, that helpless anger rising in your throat. I wanted to tell them to leave, to take their bags and go to a hotel. But Andre was my son, my firstborn, the boy who once crawled into my lap during thunderstorms. How could I turn him away? So I did what mothers do. I swallowed my hurt. I made up the guest room with fresh linens. I extended grace I wasn't feeling. Just for a little while, I told myself as I lay awake that night, listening to unfamiliar footsteps in my hallway. I didn't know then what I would discover in the coming weeks, how deep the deception ran, that my home wasn't just a temporary shelter for them, it was a target. Also download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Looking back, I should have seen the signs immediately. The way Tasha inspected every room like she was taking inventory, how she ran her fingers along the kitchen countertops and nodded to herself. Even the questions she asked about property taxes and whether the roof was new. I told myself I was being paranoid, that my mother's instinct was clouded by my dislike of this woman who had never quite warmed to me. My friend Bernice had warned me years ago when Andre first brought Tasha home. "That girl's got calculating eyes," she whispered during the engagement party, "always looking for what she can get." I dismissed it then as old lady gossip. Now, with Tasha rearranging my living room furniture without asking, I was beginning to wonder if Bernice had seen what I couldn't. By the third day, Andre had set up a makeshift office in my dining room. Tasha had filled my refrigerator with organic yogurts and imported cheeses I couldn't pronounce. They settled in like they'd always lived there. That Friday evening, I was folding laundry in my bedroom when my phone chimed, a text message from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Green, this is Thomas Kelly from Horizon Bank. We need to speak with you regarding recent inquiries about your home equity. Please call our office at your earliest convenience. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. What did a bank want with my home equity? I owned this house outright. Samuel had made sure of that before he passed. Something wasn't adding up, and I had a sinking feeling it had everything to do with the uninvited guests sleeping under my roof. I woke the next morning to the sound of furniture scraping across my living room floor. Wiping sleep from my eyes, I shuffled down the hallway to find Tasha directing Andre like a general commanding troops. That cream sofa needs to go against the far wall, she instructed, and those old family photos make the room look cluttered. My antique side table, the one Samuel restored on our 10th anniversary, had been shoved into a corner. My hand-crocheted throw pillows were piled in a box labeled Donate. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tasha flashed that practiced smile of hers. "Just freshening things up. This room has so much potential with better flow." But I didn't ask. Trust me, Loretta. I did this professionally before meeting Andre. You'll love it once it's done. I looked to Andre for support, but he avoided my gaze, busy rearranging my bookshelf, removing the leather-bound classics Samuel and I had collected over decades, replacing them with Tasha's glossy self-help books. This was just the beginning. By week's end, my kitchen cabinets had been reorganized. Your system was inefficient. My garden club schedule had been deemed flexible, so Tasha could host her friends in my living room during my usual meeting time, and my refrigerator was unrecognizable. "What happened to my casserole?" I asked one evening, searching for my dinner. "That processed food isn't good for anyone," Tasha replied while slicing an avocado. "I bought organic everything, much healthier." The receipt on the counter showed a grocery bill larger than my monthly food budget. When I mentioned it, Tasha's response was a casual, "Andre's covering it, don't worry." But worry was becoming my constant companion. I noticed how Andre flinched whenever his phone rang, how he disappeared into the guest room for hushed conversations, the dark circles under his eyes deepening daily. One morning, I checked the mailbox to find it empty. "Did the mail come today?" I asked Andre, who was hunched over his laptop at my dining table. I grabbed it earlier," he mumbled, "nothing important." But when he stepped out for a phone call, I noticed a stack of envelopes tucked under his laptop. My hands trembled as I slid them out. Among them was a bank notice addressed to me, already opened, regarding an equity line of credit application I'd never submitted. My stomach knotted. This wasn't just about needing a place to stay. Something much worse was happening. That night, I lay awake listening to hushed voices from the guest room. "We need more time," Andre was saying. "The investigator called again today." "Time is exactly what we don't have," Tasha hissed. "The transfer has to happen before they freeze everything. Your mother's house is our only option. She'll never agree to sell." Tasha's laugh made my blood run cold. "Who said anything about asking? You're on the deed, remember? Besides, she won't live forever." My heart nearly stopped. "Won't live forever." The words echoed in my head like a death knell. This wasn't just an invasion, it was a calculated plan. The next morning, I called Bernice. We agreed to meet at Millie's Cafe, away from my house, away from ears that might be listening. "You look terrible," Bernice said bluntly, sliding into the booth across from me. I cupped my coffee with both hands, seeking warmth. "They're planning something with my house," I said. Bernice's eyes narrowed. "What exactly did you hear?" I told her everything. The bank notice, the overheard conversation, the comment about me not living forever. That girl isn't just staying, she's nesting. And when birds nest, they push the others out. But Andre wouldn't, my voice faltered. Would he? My golden boy who'd always made me proud? People change, honey, especially men under the influence of women like that. Back home, I started paying closer attention. I noted how mail disappeared before I could see it, how Andre always positioned his laptop screen away from me, how Tasha took photos of various rooms when she thought I wasn't looking. Then I found something that confirmed my worst fears. While cleaning the guest bathroom, the only housework Tasha deemed unnecessary for her to help with, I moved a cosmetic bag and a paper fluttered to the floor. It was a printout of recent home sales in my neighborhood, properties comparable to mine, with sale prices circled in red ink. In the margin was a note in Tasha's handwriting, potential $340,000 to $370,000. They weren't just living in my house, they were appraising it. That evening, I finally confronted Andre alone in the kitchen. Tasha had gone out with friends, giving us a rare moment of privacy. Son, I need the truth, I said, placing the home sales printout on the table. What's really going on? Andre's face crumbled like when he was a little boy caught in a lie. Ma, it's complicated. Try me. I'm not as fragile as you think. He rubbed his face with both hands. I made some mistakes at work. Bad investments for clients. Used some funds to cover others. It started small, just borrowing from one account to fix another, but his voice broke. I'm being investigated for embezzlement. The word hung heavy between us. My son, a thief. How much? I asked, my voice steady despite the earthquake inside me. Almost 300,000. The room seemed to tilt. And Tasha? What's her role in this? Andre's expression hardened. Tasha's trying to help me fix it. She's the only one standing by me right now. By selling my house out from under me? I asked. No one's selling anything, he snapped suddenly defensively. We just need a safe place while I sort things out. Tasha thinks I know what Tasha thinks, I cut in. She thinks I'm an old woman who won't notice what's happening, who won't fight back. Andre stood up abruptly. You're making her into a villain because you've never given her a chance. Tasha warned me you'd turn this around on her. And there it was, the gaslighting, making me doubt what I've seen and heard with my own eyes and ears. I've given her chances for years, Andre, but this isn't about Tasha. It's about you choosing to drag me into your mess without my consent. My mess? He voice rose. I'm trying to stay out of prison, but all you care about is your precious house and your perfect life. I flinched as if he'd slapped me. This wasn't my son speaking. This was a desperate man repeating someone else's words. Before I could respond, the front door opened and closed. Tasha was back. Our conversation was over. Later that night, searching for a missing earring, I moved the guest bed slightly and spotted a folded document that had slipped underneath. My hand shook as I opened it. It was a property appraisal form for my house with my forged signature at the bottom. They weren't just planning to sell my house. They'd already started the process. The next morning, I told Andre and Tasha I was going to my weekly hair appointment. Instead, I drove straight to Bernice's son's law office. Philip Green Jr. was nothing like his mother. Quiet where she was outspoken, methodical where she was impulsive. But he had her sharp eyes and sharper mind. So you're telling me, he said after I explained everything, that your son and his wife moved in unexpectedly, have been acting suspiciously, and you've discovered evidence they're planning to sell your house without your permission? I nodded, clutching my purse. Andre's name is on the deed. Samuel added him years ago for estate planning. That complicates things, Philip admitted, but it doesn't give him the right to sell without your consent, especially if you're living there. Did Samuel leave any other documents regarding the house? Just as well. Everything came to me. Was there a trust established? My memory flickered. I think so. Samuel's lawyer handled all that. We need those papers immediately. He explained that trusts often contain provisions protecting surviving spouses. If Samuel had set things up properly, Andre's name on the deed might be meaningless against trust provisions. In the meantime, Philip advised, document everything. Note when they entered your home, every conversation about the house, any changes they've made. Take photos, record conversations if possible. Georgia is a one-party consent state. Record my own son? The thought made my heart ache. Mrs. Green, Philip said gently, from what you've told me, your son is in serious legal trouble, and desperate people make desperate choices. You need to protect yourself. I left with a heavy heart and a clear plan. That afternoon, I purchased a small voice recorder and 2 tiny cameras, one for the living room, one for my bedroom doorway. I felt like a spy in my own home, but Philip's warnings echoed in my ears. Over the next week, I gathered evidence systematically. Photos of my rearranged home, recordings of conversations about what this place could be with updates, a log of unexpected visitors, including a man in an expensive suit who spoke privately with Andre and Tasha for over an hour in my dining room. When they left for dinner one evening, I slipped into the guest room. My conscience protested, but my survival instinct was stronger. In Tasha's nightstand, I found a bank book for an account I'd never seen before, in her name only. Recent deposits totaling over $40,000. I photographed every page with trembling hands. The next day, I located Samuel's old files in the attic and took them directly to Philip. His expression changed as he reviewed them. Your husband was smarter than most, he said, pointing to a specific clause. This trust stipulates that while Andre is a joint owner on paper, the house cannot be sold during your lifetime without your explicit written consent. Furthermore, you're the trustee, not Andre. Relief flooded through me. So they can't sell it? Not legally, but that doesn't mean they won't try other methods. Philip wasn't wrong. 2 days later, I received a call from Andre's company, not from Andre, from his manager, wondering if I'd spoken to my son recently. Andre hadn't shown up for a meeting with the board regarding financial irregularities. I lied and said we'd spoken that morning. After hanging up, I confronted Andre in the kitchen. Your office called. They said you missed an important meeting. The color drained from his face. They weren't supposed to contact you. Andre, what's really happening with your job? Are you even still employed there? His eyes darted toward the hallway, checking for Tasha. No, he whispered. I was suspended 2 months ago when the investigation started. If I can't pay back the money, he swallowed hard, they're talking criminal charges. My poor foolish son, the boy who'd once had such a bright future. We can figure this out, I said, reaching for his hand, but not by stealing from me. He pulled away. I'm not stealing. I'm trying to save myself, and Tasha's the only one with a plan. Her plan involves taking my home. It's just a house, Ma. We're talking about my life. The worst part? He believed it. In his mind, my home of 40 years was just an asset to liquidate. My security was collateral damage in his redemption story. The ultimate blow came the following Tuesday. I'd gone to my church prayer group, one of the few activities I still maintained, despite Tasha's scheduling conflicts. When I returned, a sign stood in my front yard that made my heart stop. For sale by owner. I nearly crashed my car into the mailbox. Stumbling up the walkway, I found my front door unlocked and voices in the kitchen. A woman in a blazer sat at my table with Tasha, papers spread between them. Could list officially by Friday. Given the market and location, we should see offers within the first weekend. Tasha nodded eagerly. Perfect. We'd like to move quickly. I cleared my throat. Both women turned. Who are you? I demanded of the stranger. Patricia Everett, Neighborhood Realty, she replied, extending her hand. You must be Andre's mother. We were just discussing the listing details. There is no listing, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. This house is not for sale. Patricia glanced at Tasha, confusion crossing her face. But I was told. You were told wrong. Turn to Tasha.
Take that sign out of my yard, now." Tasha's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Loretta, let's discuss this privately. Patricia, would you excuse us?" After the realtor awkwardly gathered her things and left, Tasha's mask dropped. "You're making a scene over nothing," she said coldly. "We're doing what needs to be done." "Without asking me? Without my permission?" "Andre doesn't need your permission. He's on the deed." "Did you know about the trust?" I asked quietly. "The one that says he can't sell without my consent?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face, quickly replaced by calculation. Trusts can be challenged, especially when the trustee might not be competent. The threat hung in the air between us. Not competent. She was suggesting. Andre entered then, startled to see me. "Ma, you're home early." "Early enough to see you're selling my house behind my back." "It's not like that," he started, but Tasha cut him off. "Tell her, Andre. Tell her about the meeting with the prosecutor tomorrow. Tell her what happens if we don't come up with the money." Andre looked trapped between two fires. "They've offered a deal," he said quietly. "If I can pay back most of the money, they'll consider probation instead of prison time, but the deadline is next week. And if we sell this outdated house, we can cover it. Everyone wins. Everyone except me, who loses my house." "We'd help you find a nice little apartment," Tasha offered, as if suggesting a treat for a child. "Or what? You'll have me declared incompetent? Put me in a home?" Andre at least had the decency to be shocked. "No one's talking about that." But Tasha's expression told me otherwise. That night, alone in my bedroom, I stared at the family photos on my dresser. Samuel smiling at our 40th anniversary, Andre graduating college, my daughter Eleanor with her family in Colorado, the life we had built, the memories these walls held. And now it was all at risk because my son had made terrible choices and married a woman who saw me as nothing but an obstacle. I pulled Samuel's old Bible from my nightstand drawer, seeking comfort in its worn pages. As I held it, something slipped out. A small brass key I'd forgotten about. The key to Samuel's safe deposit box at Georgia First Bank. My mind raced. Samuel had always been meticulous about paperwork, about protecting our future. What else had he put in place that I'd forgotten about? What other protections might be waiting in that box? For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope in the darkness. Tomorrow, I would visit that bank. Tomorrow, I would find out if Samuel had left me one last gift, a way to fight back.
Georgia First Bank hadn't changed since Samuel and I opened our first account there 45 years ago. The same marble counters, the same hushed atmosphere. Even Mrs. Dunn, who'd been managing the safe deposit boxes since before my children were born, greeted me by name. "Mrs. Green, it's been ages. How can I help you today?" I showed her the small brass key. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. Something about having a plan steadied me. I need to access my husband's box. In the private viewing room, I opened the metal container for the first time since Samuel's funeral. Inside were exactly what I'd hoped for, a folder labeled Home in Samuel's neat handwriting. Among the documents was a complete copy of our living trust, with provisions I'd forgotten or never fully understood. Samuel hadn't just put Andre's name on the deed for convenience. He'd created an ironclad structure designed specifically to protect me if anything happened to him. According to these papers, while Andre was technically a joint owner, the trust explicitly prohibited any sale during my lifetime without my written consent as trustee. Furthermore, any attempt to transfer ownership without proper authorization would trigger immediate removal of Andre as beneficiary. Samuel had even included a letter to Andre, to be opened if such an attempt ever occurred. The words brought tears to my eyes. "Son, if you're reading this, something has gone terribly wrong. The home your mother and I built was meant to shelter her for all her days. It represents our life's work and sacrifice. To take it from her would dishonor everything I taught you about being a man. Remember who you are and whose son you are." I tucked the papers into my purse and made one more stop before heading home, Philip's office, where I dropped off copies of everything. By the time I returned, a plan was fully formed in my mind. That evening, I called a family meeting. Andre and Tasha sat across from me at the dining table Samuel had crafted by hand.
I'd prepared coffee and pound cake, a normal touch for an anything but normal conversation. "I thank you both for making time," I began calmly. "I wanted to discuss the house situation properly." Tasha leaned forward eagerly. "Have you reconsidered? Because the realtor thinks we can get multiple offers if we list this weekend." "I have reconsidered, but in the way you're hoping." I slid a folder across the table. Andre opened it, his expression changing as he scanned the documents. "Ma, what is this?" "That's the complete trust your father established before he died. The one you apparently forgot about when you decided to sell my home." Andre paled. Tasha snatched the papers, her eyes darting across the text. Her perfectly manicured finger stopped at a specific clause, her mouth tightening. "This can't be legal," she said flatly. "I assure you it is. My attorney has confirmed everything." I kept my voice steady. "The house cannot be sold without my consent as trustee. Any attempt to do so would trigger Andre's immediate removal from the trust entirely." Tasha's composure cracked. "We don't have time for legal games. The prosecutor's meeting is tomorrow. Without this money, Andre goes to jail." "I understand the seriousness of Andre's situation. That's why I've made an appointment to speak with the prosecutor myself." Andre's head snapped up. "You what?" "I'm going to tell them what I know, including the fact that you were about to commit fraud to cover up embezzlement." "You'd send your own son to prison?" Tasha's voice rose to a near shriek. "No. You were sending him there by encouraging more criminal activity." I turned to Andre. "Son, there's another way out of this mess, but it requires honesty and accountability." Andre looked broken, caught between two impossible choices. Tasha stood abruptly, pacing the room. "This is ridiculous. We don't need your permission. There are other ways to handle stubborn old women. Mental competency hearings? Elder care evaluations?" Her voice turned cold. "How do you think the courts will react when they learn you've been hallucinating, forgetting things, becoming paranoid?" Andre stared at her. "Tasha, stop." "No. Let her continue," I said quietly. "Let her explain how she planned to have me declared incompetent. Or perhaps she'd like to explain the separate bank account she's been keeping, the one with $40,000 in it." The color drained from Tasha's face. I pressed on. "Did you know about that account, Andre? Or about the luxury car she purchased last month, registered only in her name? I found the paperwork when I was cleaning the guest bathroom." "What is she talking about?" Andre asked, turning to his wife. "She's making things up. Like I said, paranoid." I removed my phone from my pocket and played a recording. "Don't worry about Loretta. Once we sell this place, we can put her in Sunset Gardens. They take most of her Social Security for payment, and we pocket the difference along with the house money." Tasha's voice clear as day, speaking to someone on the phone when she thought I was at church. Andre's face crumpled. "You were planning to put my mother in a home? Against her will?" "Only if necessary," Tasha backpedaled. "You know how she exaggerates. The same way I'm exaggerating about the wire transfer from your joint account to your personal one. The bank records are in that folder too." The silence that followed was deafening. Andre flipped through the papers, his expression shifting from confusion to horror as the truth sunk in. "You've been stealing from me," he whispered, looking at Tasha. "You were taking what was left." "I was protecting myself," Tasha shouted. "Someone had to think ahead. You were just digging us deeper." Their marriage fractured before my eyes, years of manipulation exposed in minutes. I almost pitied them both. "Here's what happens next," I said, bringing their attention back to me. "Tomorrow, Andre, you have a choice to make. You can continue down this path with Tasha, attempting to steal my home and likely ending up in prison, or you can come with me to the prosecutor, tell the complete truth, and begin making amends." I stood, gathering my empty coffee cup. "I'll be leaving at 9 a.m. sharp. What you decide will determine if you're still my son." As I walked upstairs to my bedroom, leaving them in stunned silence, I felt a strange mix of heartbreak and strength. The choice was now his to make.
Andre was waiting by my car at 8:45 the next morning. His eyes were red-rimmed from a sleepless night, but something had changed in his face. a hardness replaced by humility. "I'm ready," he said simply. The meeting with the prosecutor was grueling. Andre confessed everything: the embezzlement, the desperate plan to sell my house, even Tasha's separate accounts. I sat beside him, my heart breaking anew with each revelation, yet oddly proud of his courage to finally face the truth. "Given the circumstances and your mother's testimony," the prosecutor said finally, "we're willing to consider a reduced charge with probation and full restitution, but we'll need your cooperation regarding your wife's involvement." 2 days later, Tasha was served with papers while attempting to empty their joint bank account. The betrayal in her eyes when officers escorted her from the bank would haunt me for years, not because I pitied her, but because I recognized how close she'd come to destroying everything I loved. She pled not guilty at first, hiring an expensive attorney with money from her secret account. But when faced with the evidence, including recordings of her planning to have me declared incompetent, she accepted a plea deal: financial fraud, conspiracy, attempted elder abuse, 3 years probation, and community service. Not the prison time some might say she deserved, but enough to ensure she disappeared from our lives. Andre moved out the day after our meeting with the prosecutor, not back to the foreclosed townhouse, but to a small apartment near his new job, at a local community bank where an old classmate had given him a second chance as a customer service representative. A humbling change from his executive position, but honest work that allowed him to begin repaying his debts. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Ma, or maybe ever, but I'm going to earn back your trust if it takes the rest of my life." I didn't make it easy for him. Trust once shattered doesn't mend overnight. For months, our only contact was brief phone calls and occasional coffee meetings in public places. I needed to heal, and he needed to prove to both of us that he was becoming the man his father had raised him to be. My home slowly returned to normal. I moved the furniture back where it belonged, rehung the family photos, replanted the garden that had withered during those chaotic weeks. Each act felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Bernice visited often, bringing casseroles and gossip, never once saying "I told you so" about Tasha, though she had every right. "You know what Samuel would say if he were here?" she asked one afternoon as we sat on the porch swing. "What's that?" "That's my Loretta, still wrapped in velvet." I laughed through unexpected tears. It was exactly what he would have said. 6 months after everything happened, Andre came for Sunday dinner, our first attempt at reviving an old tradition. He brought fresh rolls from the bakery and a peace lily from my kitchen window. "I finished paying back the Thompsons today," he told me, referring to the first family he'd stolen from. 3 down, 4 to go. I nodded, serving him a piece of peach cobbler, one step at a time. As we ate, I studied his face, the face I'd known since the doctor placed him in my arms 42 years ago. He was changed, humbled, but also strangely more himself than he'd been in years. Free from Tasha's influence, he was finding his way back to the man he was meant to be. "Why did you help me, Ma? After what I tried to do to you? You could have let me go to prison." I considered my answer carefully. Because homes aren't just about walls and roofs. They're about the people who make them worth fighting for. Your father built this house for us, all of us. I couldn't preserve it while losing you. A year to the day after Tasha declared, "This is our new home," I hosted a small dinner party. Andre came, so did Bernice, and Philip, who'd become regular visitors. Even my daughter Eleanor flew in from Colorado. We gathered around Samuel's handcrafted table, sharing stories and laughter. The walls that had witnessed such betrayal now held new memories. The home that had almost been stolen now felt more securely mine than ever. Later that night, after everyone had gone, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the life Samuel and I had built. The roses he'd planted bloomed outside my window. His Bible sat on the end table beside me. His presence somehow still filled these rooms. "This is my home," I whispered to the quiet house. "Always was, always will be." And finally, at 70 years old, I understood what Samuel had known all along, that the greatest security comes not from locks and legal documents, but from the courage to stand up for what's yours, even when the threat comes from those you love most.
Lastly, download your ebook titled Suspense and Thriller Stories by clicking the link in the pinned comment.